This is the Apparelist podcast, designed to bring you real-life conversation about high-level topics relevant to the decorated apparel community.
All right, everybody, it's here. It's time. This is the first episode. You heard it here, the first episode of the Apparelist podcast. We're just going to join the ranks and the realms of everybody else, but we have a lot to say, and we think that all of the decorators out there have a lot to say too. So here we are. We're launching a podcast right on the heels of launching the Apparelist brand this year. Really exciting stuff. For this first episode, Josh is joining me, and of course, he is my infamous partner in crime. We are here building this brand. Josh, what's up?
What's up? I guess you're stuck with me as your first guest, Cassie. But no, I'm stoked about this. I think you're dead on. We both have a lot of good conversations with folks around the industry, and in particular other podcasters. So getting a place where we can bring everybody together and talk about it, I think it'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we don't have to take it too seriously. But yeah, I'm stoked about what we've done in the past year. Like you and I met like about a year ago. And like I was just thinking about this the other day, and it's like, man, we've really dug in a year. And it's been, so humbling from everybody in the industry that's come out and support us and everywhere we've been and who we've talked to. Like we were just chatting before we came on about your trip this morning and getting into shops. That's something that I hadn't really had the ability to do before. So it's almost like a stronger connection. I'm stoked about where we are and what we've built, and just the reaction so far. So this is the logical next step, as they say.
Right. And that's so crazy you say that. Like 1 year since you and I have really, come together as part of this team with everybody else. Wow, we have done so much in a year. I feel like we've been working on this for at least 5 because of everything we've launched and gotten going. It's just like mind-boggling to see what this community is capable of and what we've gotten to be a part of so far, right?
Yeah, and it's been eye-opening too, like with the, I think both of us kind of had tunnel vision when it came to the print industry in our previous lives, and coming here and just seeing, man, what a great big world of print it is, and our mission to, secure our community space within that. It's exciting at the same time. It's really scary because it's like, what if you do this? But I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the whole team, because it has been kind of assembled, and I'm stoked we have the ability to do it and we have the support to do it. That's you can't not credit that enough, right? When you've got good leaders, they see it, they have a vision, they understand it's going to take time. And the steps we've taken, I thought would honestly take us 2 years, 3 years to get where we are. And then we still got a long way to go, right? Like we have some, reparations to make, I think. And we've started down that path.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Started down that path like running full speed. Sometimes it feels like, right? But like really interesting to think about like where we were and where we are now. This sort of like niche that we fill, if you will. Like, we talk about the decorated apparel space, but sort of from like a different perspective, which, like you were saying, has been sort of eye-opening for myself and you, and I think a few other people out there, is to just kind of see like when I'm out in these shops and visiting people, when I talk to them about like what their pain points are, sometimes it's about, oh, well, we had these issues with pre-press, or this embroidery machine, got caught at this stage, whatever. But like mostly people are talking about how crazy business has been, especially going through like COVID and all that stuff, and like handling different aspects of running a business. And I think perhaps for me, that has been one of the most eye-opening experiences in jumping into this industry.
Dead on. Like, and I can't even, like, I don't know if it was something I was missing before, or if it was like the world shutting down, that whole thing that's like made people focus on certain things more. Because it was devastating for some businesses. We watched it all happen. And then you turn around and hear other folks be like, no, record sales, record years, like we're looking at different things. We're looking at this, and it's like, was I missing this before, or like, is this what's happening now? And so it's been level setting one way or another, whatever the reason is. Here we are, we're going forward. It's been I would have to echo that it's been eye opening to be like verbatim echo that. And I hope I wasn't missing it before, but that's what I think people want now, and they're focused on different things, and priorities have reset. And what was a huge problem 3 years ago is kind of like, yeah, anybody can deal with that shit now. So I'm excited to see how long that stays, and we'll see if it continues that way. But no, the space we fill is unique, I think, and the way we can approach it, and the resources that we have, and the perspective that we have with all the other print segments. And I know like you're getting to kind of touch some of those too, and I am as well. And it's like holy crap, this is a whole learning thing. But then you see the similarities. And then you see like, oh, okay, well, that is the same thing that I've always heard it called. You just use it a different way, or you have a few more adjectives around it or something like that. But essentially, it's a printing process. It's fascinating. I mean, kind of nerd out on it a little bit. I can see how people get super super into this every day, because it's you're creating something. There's an artistic side of it, and that's always why I'll be partial to kind of our communities, because there is that element of craftsmanship. Of course, you've got color management and pre-press operations and workflow and yada yada yada, but you still get to create something that is so obvious in somebody's life every day. Like the sign on the road, you don't think about being printed. Well, it is. Everywhere you look, something is printing. People say print is dead, right? Clearly that's not the case. I mean, okay, paperback novels, okay, maybe that's changed obviously in the last few years, but there's just as much road signage, there's just as much printed things out there, but nothing is as close to the heart as apparel, where people notice it, and they have a visceral connection to it. Some of the early stuff we did with the band t-shirts and things like that. Like, people are hardcore about their apparel, and our community gets to help make those memories, so to speak.
Yeah, I really find myself relating personally to so much of what you just said, because I look back, and when I was getting my journalism degree, never in a million years did I imagine I would land in an industry that is just such a cool, creative, but you're right, nerdy almost thing that we all do and we all get to be a part of. And it's just such a cool industry. And whenever I tell people, oh yeah, I work for Apparelist, it's this magazine that covers the decorated apparel industry, they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, look down at your shirt, dude. That's it. We help the people who created that shirt make it better for you. How funny is that? You don't, it's in this peripheral vision, so to speak. You see it, it's there, but you don't know it's there, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people do though. I would say some people do know it's there. I use that analogy a lot, but I came from the events industry my whole career, and I agree, it's like a tribe. And I actually came from a very tribal community. It was the surf community in the events business, and it's when I went to go work on the first event that had to do with this segment, I was like, oh, man, I'm going from my people and what I enjoy doing because of the board sports side of it and things like that, to t-shirts. And then you get there and you realize it's the same people, the same kind of people. There is a total tribe mentality. But I do think people notice it. Well, maybe they don't. Maybe it kind of depends. And this analogy helps. Is I always compare the t-shirt to the bicycle. One thing from working on a bike event that it taught me was the bicycle means a lot of things to a lot of people. It is single-handedly one of the most utilitarian objects in our life, where in some places in the world, it is your connection to your livelihood. It's how you carry your cargo. It's how you get to work. It is your mode of transportation, all the way to a $10,000 Cannondale that you ride on a Wednesday afternoon because you can, total discrepancy between those two things. And I think apparel is the same thing. literally almost everybody on this planet owns multiple t-shirts, and what that means to them could be totally different. It could be the clothing on their back, the shelter from the elements on their next to skin garment, like it is that important and basic. To how much does Kanye's t-shirts cost? Like, I mean, like how much is some of this apparel gonna reach into the $10,000 t-shirts because you can, and because it's something that you like or you want or you can afford. There's such disparity between what can it be used for, but it's something that, like, name somebody who doesn't have a t-shirt, name somebody who doesn't have 17 t-shirts, at least where we are in the world.
Yeah, so true. And I think that's not that thought process, but I think that whole idea is a lot of like what we're doing here right now today, is to like talk about what encompasses that. Like you said, I mean, it can be as simple as like, look, I just need a t-shirt to wear today. I just need clothing. Or it could be as simple or as big as like, dude, I just dropped $400 on Kanye's latest t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? But all the things that sort of go into that, like what goes into creating it. Like we were talking earlier about like the cotton supply, like crazy to think that like cotton is such a commodity right now. Like you can't get it. It's hard to come by. And now like I have this shirt on, but what did it take to get it from start to finish? And that's a lot of why we're starting this podcast. And you and I, we cover it, we talk about it, we're in it. But this podcast is going to have some really insightful guests, some industry experts that are going to come on. And I think that's what's going to make the content so valuable.
Yeah, it's where we get our answers, right? It's not you and I just pontificating the answers. That nobody cares. Sorry, Cassie, nobody cares what we think. But the fact that we can cover it, the fact that we have access to the people who do have the answers and their willingness to share and to be thought leaders, that's what we need right now in this industry, is to step up. Traditionally speaking, we haven't been the most tech savvy. There's a few folks out there who do it really, really well. But they're always attached to a means to an end, right? It's like the suppliers, because they're always the best experts, right? People are, oh, there's always sales related to it. Well, it kind of comes with the territory, but when they're the people who make the machine, they're gonna be the experts in it. They're gonna have the science behind it. They're gonna be the people who are in it and making decisions. And it's our job to separate that, right? To discern the actual information and data that's valuable to the decorators, and separate that from the why you think yours is the best, right? Because everybody thinks theirs is the best. So it's fun to be in the impartial position. I think we can do a lot of good. And on some things, maybe we do have introspective or insight, right? Like for cotton, for example, I know I sat on the sidelines, and I know you were aware of it too, but like the paper industry just went through this. And so we're kind of like peeking over the fence at our brothers and sisters on the other sister brands and what they're talking about. And then you start seeing, flags and indicators, and you're like, oh, it's about to happen here. You know what I mean? And the same could be said with the proliferation of digital printing in this segment, right? Like, not that it's going to follow the same footprint, or that it will just wake up tomorrow and be away, but like our advisory board member Jeff Mulander said, screen printing is not going anywhere, but everybody's got to learn to live with digital. Like it's here, it's growing. After 20 years, the technology has gotten to a point you can't just throw it off to the wayside anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if there's one thing that is absolutely certain, it's that nothing is certain. And we, I know you agree with this as well. We stand by the mantra that the apparel industry is changing and will continue to do so, and probably at a really rapid pace. And like you and I are here to help keep up with that pace. We got to get the decorators to stay on top of it.
Well, and it's a reflection. Rising tides always float all ships. And, you have the crazy idea that in 20 years, you're just going to walk into retail stores and it's going to take a scan of you and your clothes are going to come. Well, that's going to involve everybody else too, with custom apparel, like the way it's made, the styles, like the ideation time from, retail fashion to custom decorated apparel, even since the short, just shy of a decade that I've been kind of involved in this, that has like come down to like almost trend setting versus being the late adopter from, the box tee that was just the only thing you could get done 15, 20 years ago, or it was really planning that, to like, no, man, they're making some like top of the line crazy stuff, whether it's cut sew or it's what the cut and colors coming out of the mills. It is the same thing. It's the same damn shirt. You know what I mean? Just depends on what brand's logo on it, and you can get access to that. Like that's good for everybody in our community, because I mean the amount of people who are aware of custom apparel versus buy it is there's a huge gap there. And I don't know, and maybe it's just personal, but I swear I see people with more t-shirts that are one-offs than ones that like the traditional graphic tee, that's like mass produced. People want their own thing, and especially after the turmoil over the last few years, it's never been more prevalent in my everyday life.
No, 100%. I agree. I personally, like when I am shopping for clothing or something catches my eye, is because it like appeals to me personally, or it has something to do with like aligns with like my belief system or whatever. And I think that's why we're seeing such this like massive growth of custom one-offs. And I have to admit, I'm really excited to see where that's going to go, because I feel like there are so many ways it's already going that it's going to be really crazy to see how this continues to push not only like our industry, but like you said, like the fashion industry as a whole, the retail industry as a whole. It all is like circular and affects each other. I mean, we're not just like this small little teeny blip in the universe. Like the decorated apparel world and the print world at large is huge.
Oh God, it's insane. Like, and that's the thing, is that's one of our goals here, I think, is to figure out how to really quantify that. Because you can go see like Grandview and Deloitte and all this stuff, and people who aren't really experts, and the way they categorize things and classify things, there's no consistency to it. One thing I'm hoping we can establish is that while we're here, like some way of measuring or accurately estimating how big we are. Because you can go right now and put it in Google, try it. You'll get numbers in the US from 10 billion to 40 billion. That's a huge difference. Like that's, and then they're like in the same page on Google, and you're like, okay, I know that name. That's like a research name, and that's not anywhere close. Like the difference in 1 billion and 2 billion is billion. Like, and you're talking 3-4 times that. It's crazy. So we don't even know how impactful we are. That's what's crazy, is that it's all speculation. Everybody calls themselves different things. Everybody looks at themselves a different way. I mean, we even see that in registrations. When printers come, they'll say like, I'm a manufacturer. It's like, okay, for purposes of this, we need to better define what we mean by our registration types. Like, no, if you're printing apparel, we're not going to call you a manufacturer. We're going to call, an OEM equipment manufacturer, or an apparel brand that's actually sourcing the cotton, putting it together, dyeing it and selling blanks. That's a manufacturer for what we're talking about right here. There's just no real consistency and standards. And I think where Printing United has been able to do that for some of the other segments, that the natural next step is, okay, let's try to tackle this. We've got experts out the wazoo. We just got to figure out how to learn them what we do. Yeah, I think the stuff that you've already been doing, like I think you actually started this podcast before we even today and didn't even realize it. Like the stuff with John and the stuff with Jed is just, it's phenomenal. It's so valuable. Finding the right people to come on and talk and share their story, whether it's from the heart, whether it's a business purpose, whether it's thinking about things differently, like why all decorators should be selling promo, and why all promotional products distributors should be selling apparel, whether they're making it or not. We can make the connections. It's more business for everybody. And that's a whole diatribe I went on one of those webinars, or one of the podcasts, where it's like, there's so much market share to be gained. Like y'all don't even know. Like from all the data we can find, it's third-party data that is considered highly reliable, and that like people, big businesses make their decisions on and drive global economies on, is saying that essentially 60% of people who know custom apparel exists aren't buying it for one reason or another. No access to it, not thought to, it's not put in front of them, it's not being sold to them. And so there's like, whenever in an economic, and it's the word I'm looking for, not environment, but a microcosm, you know, do you have non-threatening characteristics like that, where it's like, invite all your friends to do this too, because the more people are selling it, the more is going to be sold and the more it's going to be in demand, and we're all going to get more business. And it's a complicated process to follow. But if you sit down and you ponder on it for a while, you're just like, damn, that's right. Like that's what this would say, even if it's counterintuitive. There's so much potential here, and there's like no end in sight, right? Like, when are people, I mean, especially Americans, let's be honest, not going to want like something that they have the only one of, or only ones of, or something unique and something that's me, and helping me live my best life. I mean, it plays here. It's just like the place for it, like, this is perfect.
Oh, so true, man. So true. Yeah, like I feel like we could go on forever, but I think we said it best. Come back, expect to go forward, looking for this podcast, future episodes. We have great things planned. The bar has been set. We set it really high because we settle for nothing less than the best. So yeah, I just want to encourage everybody, as you go about your day, check back with us. Just keep in touch with us. Subscribe to the Apparelist newsletter. All that good stuff, because you never know which guest is going to be next, and if it's good information, you don't want to miss it. Well, thanks so much, Josh, and yeah, looking forward to the future, and we will chat soon.